At Wyatt today is a friend of mine on Twitter, now known as X, and we've been mutuals for many years. And he's always been a mystery, but I knew that he was important because Karl Rove followed him, and every once in a while he would tweet something that would get 1,500 likes. And so I've got Wyatt here today, and I'm not introducing him as I normally would a guest because he's still a mystery. Even though he's a friend and we've had phone conversations, I'm going to let him do the introduction.
Hmm. I don't even know where to start. I'm a mystery wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in an ill-fitting polo shirt, wrapped in a little bit of everything, but I'm here and it's a joy to talk to you as always. And I enjoy our phone conversations. And I think that today we can learn a little bit more about each other.
Right, definitely. It's been turned on me every once in a while. I call these interviews, but sometimes people ask me questions, and I don't mind opining. So you're at a stage of your life where you seem to be creating your legacy, and the
Yes.
legacy is one of service and helpfulness. And you mentioned that you've got a project going on in your garage. What's that about?
Yes. Yes. So it's important to me at this stage in my life. I'm 32, and I think that I've gone through a lot of things in my life, many of which have been out of my control, some of which have been in my control. And I feel like at times I'm like an 80-year-old, and at other times I still feel 20. And I think that at this stage, it behooves me to think about what do I want to do for others? Because I've spent many years thinking about what I want to do for myself. And that's something that when you go through traumatic situations, you try to pick up the pieces and you build your own ego again, but you don't necessarily build an environment in which you are creating again. It's a very it's a safe space in the most negative possible way where you're protected from what happens around you, but life still happens around you and there's still people in your life. And it was, in recent realizations, I came to the conclusion that there were so many things that I had said that I wanted to do, and I just never did them, or I would do incremental progress towards them. Now, in my garage currently, in the garage here at the house, I have two friends who are very dear to me. They are, you know, in relation to my best friend, and a project that they are working on that I have now come on board with is an all natural and vegan skincare company. Now, I'm not vegan, but I can appreciate the fact that they would like to use all natural, high quality ingredients. I do like skincare. I had horrific acne in high school. I mean, just the worst. And it was something where I tried literally everything to get rid of it, all the way down to acid peels at the dermatologist. My dermatologist, like you and I were talking about earlier this week, was the one who diagnosed Rock Hudson with Kaposi's sarcoma. So I went to a good dermatologist and basically she like burned all my skin off with acid and it helped. I felt like a woman in Afghanistan, but it did the job. And I realized that there is a market for these types of products, especially for ones that are non-comedogenic, so ones that don't clog your skin, and ones that you know where the ingredients came from. So tracing and labeling is very important to us. And this was a project that they wanted to work on for a while, and they never had the space to do it. It's hard to build a skincare home care company in your apartment. And so I have this garage and it's air conditioned and sealed and, very, I have other parking for vehicles at this house. And so I decided to offer it to them so that they can work on this company. And so uh, they're currently at the 90% development stage of four products: a morning serum and an evening serum, and a countertop cleaner that's all natural, and a room spray that's all natural, all using essential oils and very high quality ingredients. And this week, they just created the first 70. And so they're making sample packs that are going to be for sale during Thanksgiving week. So we're really excited about that. I wanted to step in because this was trending to like a spring 2024 release. And I was like, how can we move this timeline up? And so it's been very rewarding to both mentor them in this business and also help them create something new and use a space that's within my house. So that's been it's been a joy, and I feel like if I did one thing right, I was able to do this.
Where can people buy this?
It'll be available online, and I will have all the appropriate links and information. We're actually the website's in development this week, and it'll also be available through Instagram. And we're doing direct sales for now, and then we'll see in the next few months eventually trying to get some shelf space. We'll see who's open to that. I know Sephora is pretty booked, but we'll go from there. We'll see what the feedback is like. Every time I talk about it on social media and everything, the response is so overwhelming. I knew there was a market. I didn't realize there was this big of a market for a product like this, and so it's something that we're excited about.
So if someone wants to follow this, can they just go to @Wyatt Today on
Mm.
X and keep up with how to buy this? Or
Yes, and @Wyatt Vision on Instagram. So I've been posting the progress on my stories. And so that's something that as we have all of this information together, follow me on Instagram. You'll get that information. Twitter too. I'll be posting it on there as well. It's all about the promo, baby. It's like Kathy Griffin and My Life on the D List. She's like, come on, promo, promo, promo. That's how I function.
and now she's no longer on the D list. And I feel like her comedy is a little bit less funny now that she's not on the D list. She's A list now.
As soon as Joan Rivers died, it all fell apart. It really did. And I feel bad for her because there was an interview with Kathy Griffin with Adam Carolla. And, she had, I believe, lung cancer. And so her voice is very raspy from what it once was. And she's talking about how, the trials that she's been through the past few years. And I think the hard part is it's hard to be funny in an environment like that. And when you've achieved everything you've wanted, my achievement was this house. And so I got what I wanted. And that was when it was like, okay, what now? Like, what can I do next? And then having to stop and realize that. And I understand for her whole goal was I was on a sitcom. I was a stand-up. I got on a sitcom very early and I did very well with that. And it's like, okay, I'm a celebrity, but I'm not really a celebrity. Like people know who I am, but I'm not a household name necessarily. Like she's like the joke she always said was people still call me Kathy Griffith because they don't even really know my name, but they're like, hey, that's that lady from TV. And so her whole story, My Life on the D List, was like clawing her way back up to some kind of relevance and, famous friends and things like that. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It was so good. And I think that, she's an example of someone who you might go through tragedy and it does make you stronger. Finding the humor in it is the hardest part.
Did you ever see her on Celebrity Mole?
Mm-mm. I never saw that show, but I heard that it was great.
That was when I first experienced her and loved her. I knew her from Seinfeld, and I think I knew her from the Brooke Shields show. I don't remember what that was called, but
Suddenly Susan, right?
yeah, suddenly
Yes.
Susan. And then Kathy on the Mole, like at the end, there was like a game that everybody had to play, and you had to guess who the mole was. Kathy did not really consider who the mole was and choose. She would just do it as fast as she could because a fast wrong was better than a right slow.
Right.
And so she had a weird strategy. And there was this one point when they were doing something out in the field, and I can't remember his name. It's like John Corbin or something like that. He's like an older actor, and he
Corbett, is he the one who was on My Big Fat Greek Wedding? The guy with the long hair?
no, it was someone older. I don't know
Hmm.
his name. I might be saying it the wrong way.
It was
But
Cary Grant.
it was Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson had the celebrity mole.
Yeah. Turns out it was Carposi Circle.
Oh no.
But they said, what the hell was Kathy Griffin doing out there in the outfield? And she just had her hands open, like blocking something, but she was near no one or no ball. And I don't remember where it was, but it just made me laugh and laugh and laugh. But she won Celebrity Mole. And I think the narrative that I'm creating is that she used her winnings to get a new face.
Yes. Good
um,
for her.
right. And I interviewed Ben Coleman, who used to live in Los Angeles, and I love California interviews. I think this is my second one because y'all have history about movie stars, and it almost feels like family history because we all know them, and
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Yeah, someone wrote an article. It was Steve Saylor in the American Conservative wrote a fantastic article in the past couple weeks talking about how San Fernando Valley is America's suburb. So the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. And the fact that so much of what you know as the suburban ideal, from the house to the yard to the grill to the three kids to the all of those aspects, Leave It to Beaver, Brady Bunch, all of that, this is where it was filmed and this is where the real life actors lived, but this is also the environment that it happened in. And so, in a sense, this is like, kind of like those old company towns or those model towns that they would build for a specific industry back in the turn of the century. It's kind of like that, but for like what a suburb is. And so, so many people feel such a connection to Los Angeles and to the Valley because they grew up, it was a part of their family. It was something that they watched. It was something they watched with their family. Their family memories are inextricably tied to it. And so there is this, it's a very interesting sort of liminal space to exist in because you'll see like Jane Lynch using the bathroom at Starbucks and not buying anything. So it's this very weird, like you see celebrities in real life, you might be on nodding terms with some of them, and you know what they've done, but it's also in the environment that you live in. And there's this very strange connection. Because like people will ask me like, "Oh my gosh, do you know any celebrities?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Matt Damon and I get coffee every week." No, I don't fucking know any celebrities, but I've met people, and you just interact with them in very strange ways. Like one of the podcasts I listened to with April Winchell, who's a voice actor. Her dad, Paul Winchell, was a very famous puppeteer. She said something like, the weirdest thing about living in LA is like you'll see like John Lithgow buying toilet paper at the store. Like it really it drops the veil very fast being here. I saw Bruce Valanche in the soda aisle at Pavilions. There you go. That's your glamorous celebrity encounter of the in LA.
How did you hear about the dermatologist that diagnosed Rock Hudson? Did someone say you should go to her? She diagnosed Rock Hudson, or or she's like, oh, I'm going to treat your acne. I fixed Rock Hudson, you know?
No, no, no. She okay. This is an interesting story. So I was down bad. Like acne was coming back. This was like 2012, 2013. So about 10 years ago. Well out of high school, but it was like really kicking my ass. And I finally decided I need to do something about this. So I never did Accutane. I never did all that stuff. And so I found a dermatologist. I mean, I've been going to a dermatologist since I was in third grade. Like my parents got me into one like very young, and it was traumatizing. I'll still never forget. This is a fun one. I'll still never forget a dermatologist. It was this very small and very loud Indian woman with a razor on the end of like a pen, like those little like pen knives, scraping the skin off of my lower back and the top of my ass because I was getting acne there in third grade. That just unlocked a whole trauma memory. But anyway, I decided to go to a dermatologist, and I found her through Yelp or whatever. Her reviews were very good. And I went into her office, and she is based beyond belief. Like she was like, I voted for Ron Paul. This country's going to hell. Like, my husband, was screwed over by Obama's government. I'm like, wow, like this is a lot of information. And then I only found out later on, like looking her up, because I'm like, I'm fascinated by this woman and I want to know everything, that she's the dermatologist who diagnosed Rock Hudson with AIDS. It's like the bio on her website. And I'm like, wow, even the dermatologists have IMDb's here.
What's her name?
Dr. Latantia Rochelle, I believe.
Is she still alive?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see.
How old is she?
She is probably in her late 50s, early 60s now. So she was very young, I'm guessing, when that happened. I think she was just starting out.
Hmm. That is very interesting. I remember
Very, very nice lady. Always had great cookies in her office, like those little like chocolate dipped cookies.
I remember seeing an old Rock Hudson interview when they were asking him about his weight loss, and he said that he was anorexic.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, if you have to use anorexia to cover for your medical symptoms, that's a real fucking problem going on there.
Because no anorexic says, "Oh, I'm anorexic." Like you got this weird Eugenia Cooney. I eat, and her mom's fat. She's like, I eat, and then you got Jeffree Star like, hey, leave her alone, and 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 the girl's a skeleton, and they won't use the A word.
Right. I'm like, okay, like what do we have to do here? Like if you stand outside and you look like a Halloween decoration, let's move it along. Like let's get you on an IV, honey. Like come on, let's go.
But then you got Rock Hudson. Oh, I have anorexia. That's when you know.
Well, after Liberace too, remember the excuse given was that it was complications from the watermelon diet. It's like, oh, come on. Like how many ways can you call the man gay? Like leave him alone.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Then and then Karen Carpenter. They wouldn't talk
Yeah.
about anorexia with her.
Well, nobody wants. Sorry, I thought I had my thing on mute. No one wants to talk about the fact that Karen Carpenter allegedly had some really bad trauma with her family, and that was what contributed to her eating disorder. But there was a story out there that came out many years later that there was some weird shit that happened with all the Carpenters growing up, and then it led to a lot of problems down the line.
I can see that happening. Because she did an interview early on and she said that I knew that if we didn't get famous by a certain time, I was going to have to go and kill myself.
Oh my God, I
It
have
was
no
like in an
idea.
interview, and she's got like beautiful hair and bangs, and I thought I was going to have to kill myself. Like it was just the weirdest thing because they were so wholesome looking.
People in that time had better hair than now, and I think it's because they didn't do so much to it. There was like the Joni Mitchell style, like the very long, straight, like pretty hair. And like there was something about a girl with very pretty hair. And now everything is so fake and it's all extensions and it's all chemically treated and stuff. People
Yeah,
probably ate
I
better
don't,
then too.
I don't like that either. I think it looks like you can't touch it. It looks like it's a little too much. It looks it looks like it would smear too much if you kissed them. I think that there's probably a lot to be said for like it probably certain things probably look good, but then too
Right.
much of it is just a big mess.
Right. I think that there's things that you can do that make yourself look more natural, is the word that people like to use. But it's like, if you have messy eyebrows, get them into shape, not like rectangles, but like do little, keep up, things and things like that. I don't trust injectables and I would never get any, but I think that some people like them. I feel like it's just when you do something like that, you're having to just do continual maintenance. So you get it, and then you have to get it again, then you have to get it again, you have to get it again, and then eventually your forehead's in your back. But
Right, like Kenny Rogers.
oh gosh, the eyelids on that poor man. He looked like a different race by like after 10 years. It
I
was
think that's what killed
insane.
him.
I think I'm sure.
It
I
was a
mean,
hate crime. They were like, we hate
it,
Asians, and they
and at the end it was like, I mean, I don't know if he was trying to keep up with Dolly or what the situation was, but it was looking rough.
right. And I think there have to be some people whose plastic surgery look good, like the world's oldest supermodel. I think she might be 90 now.
Yes, I think that people like that where I think I could understand if it was like it's one thing. And if you have one thing, not Jennifer Grey with the nose or whatever, but if it's
Right.
like if it's oh, that's so sad.
If
But
you're
if it's like
famous and you have bad teeth or a bad nose, keep the bad nose and bad teeth.
look at Madonna,
Right.
there you go. But I think that there is something where it's like if there's they use so many euphemisms, and living in Orange County for a little while, you learn all of them. But the ones that I'm just going in for maintenance, it's just a little bit of maintenance, and it's like, well, what exactly are you maintaining? Because you look different now than you did 4 years ago, and not in a better way. Like you just look like you got pulled back a lot more. So where is
Right.
that?
And I wish I could remember that woman's name. Carmen. I wish Carmen something.
Yes, yes. I can picture her too with like that beautiful white hair.
White hair.
Yes.
They asked her, have you ever had plastic surgery? And I say they probably was Diane Sawyer. She likes to ask those questions.
She's
And
so fucking nosy.
right. And Carmen said, if your roof is falling down, wouldn't you fix it? And
Oh,
yeah, I thought that was great. And
I
Carmen,
I think it'd be funny if she said that with like a giant pair of cans. Like she was saying like if your roof is falling down and she has like a chin wrap.
plastic.
Just
You know, can't but Carmen, she still looks her age. Like she looked 80. She just looked like
but
a
like a
great 80.
I think that when you start to get to that age, if you're vertical and you're able to walk without assistance, you look good. I mean,
True. Um, so I think plastic surgery, it tries to make people look younger, and I think it would do better to make you look the best you can at the appropriate stage.
correct. And I think that eventually we'll get to the point where it'll be all laser based. And so whatever they do resurfacing wise or things like that, it will just be as non-invasive as possible. And we'll look back at some of the things that people did, like the old behind the ears facelift and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like we'll look back at that and be like, what the hell were we thinking?
Which I think Aunt Becky had that.
Yes.
Because you can tell by the ears, like they pull the skin over this thing, the
Yes.
tragus.
Yes.
Um, the that is, I want to talk about Madonna's plastic surgery since we're on this. Um,
Yes.
I don't think Madonna used to pride herself in not doing plastic surgery, and I don't think that she should have done any. Because even though now on her tour she looks closer to the Madonna that we know, like it's done something with her neck. Her neck looks small.
You can never hide the neck, no matter
Well,
what
but her
people
neck looks
do.
shorter. It's like they made
Yeah.
it so wide, like that guy from Family Guy. Her neck looks different.
like Quagmire.
Yeah, the giggity.
Yes, Quagmire.
Yeah.
I think that you can't hide the neck and you can never hide the hands. And those are two things where it's like I honestly feel it's good to see that, after her flu or near death experience or whatever the hell it was,
Alleged.
infection, alleged. People had said it was an infection while she was getting surgery. That's possible. Like in recovery, that's also possible.
All
But she
right,
does
didn't happen at all.
well, she does look good. Like she looks like better than she did before because it was getting bad. Like she was like a guest in her own face at a certain point. And that again, that makes me so sad because if you're a woman or a man at a certain age, I don't understand the concept of not embracing being at that age. And this is in the gay community, and this is in, I mean, a straight community with women and the men who, get the hair plugs and the Corvette. But in the gay community too, there's a certain subsect of men who reach the age of 50 and then start going backwards. And then at a certain point, they're like 55 and they're trying to act like they're 22. And I think there's nothing less attractive than that in somebody. It's like if you're 55, you should look gentlemanly, established, secure in yourself and in what you've done. Talk about legacy. Hopefully you've at least started that. If not, like, let's get moving. But there is something about, maybe gray beard or very, like there's something about that. When I'm 55, that's how I would like to look. Like I'm sure that this red hair is going to go gray at some point, and I just hope I can keep it. But I'm okay like being 55 and looking like, I'm a I'm here. This is what I've accomplished. I've earned this body. I've earned this life. And I've earned the people that are in my life with me now and my partner and whatever. That's where I want to be at 55. And I feel like this not just delayed, but like retroactive adolescence is really it's very sad to see.
I think these people, and they do start probably panicking as their looks are fading and other people are becoming more popular. They also don't have anybody that will tell them no. And
Yes.
Courtney Cox even said it took a friend of hers to be like, okay, you've done enough. Because she said it didn't look the same in real life as it did in pictures, and it looked weird in pictures.
Her eyes couldn't move.
Right.
That's
And
how
now,
bad it was.
but I saw her recently and she looked great. And I was like,
She got the restorative work.
yeah, she got it. She let it go back, and I feel bad because like for someone just to let Madonna go out on stage like she did in February and it wasn't ready, and no one is telling them no, and they just can't get the truth. It's like the emperor's new clothes. They were
Yes.
just and then you feel like you're getting secondhand information because you can't really get it yourself because you're too famous. And so
Right.
then well, this is what everybody is saying, and then they go too extreme. Like the only people that are aging naturally are people that got completely out of Hollywood, um like Bridget Fonda.
I, I'm so glad you brought up Bridget Fonda. I love her. And I saw that she looks like a mom and she looks happy, and she still has designer bags and stuff like that. Like, God, she's earned them. But you see her around now in the Daily Mail as like, like horror, like Bridget Fonda pictured or something. I'm like, she looks like a normal American woman. Like, yes, I'm sure that there's many women across the country who, when they were 20, they probably had abs or near abs and long blonde hair, and they look great. I'm sorry, but you have 3 kids and you go through life and everything like that. You're going to gain some weight, and that's okay. That's something that you can work on. But I'm so happy that she doesn't look sad. She doesn't look sad like some of these sticks with balloon heads. She looks happy. And why
Comfortable,
can't we
content.
value that? Yeah,
And I saw I think they can when I saw it they do it like once every 6 months. Here's Bridget Fonda, can you believe it? And they look back at like one of her old movies, and it's like single white female, and she was so skinny, like had a cinched waist and stuff. But she was probably miserable. She was probably on cocaine. She was probably throwing up after she did eat. And that is miserable, and that's worse for you. And, if you have to completely exit to save your life, like she'll live longer as an overweight regular person than she would as a drugged up skinny starlet. I mean, they die all the time.
they do. And it's sad to see. And so I think that I don't know what it is. I don't know what people feel that celebrities owe them or what deferred potential or something like that they think that people have. I don't know what star that we know that was a major star was ever a particularly happy person over the course of their lives. Like, go through the AFI's top 10 on male and female. I don't think you can pick out many that were particularly happy. And they gave their all to a career that then in the end, I don't know if you ever saw the show Feud with Betty and Joan. And it was Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. So Betty Davis played by Susan Sarandon, Joan Crawford played by Jessica Lange. It was a fantastic show. And it was a Ryan Murphy production, and it was still fantastic. And
Even the
they,
whole thing, even after the first 3 episodes.
yes, and it continued. Helen Hunt directed one of the episodes. And towards the end, it was, the year that Joan Crawford passed and succumbed to cancer and lifetime of alcohol abuse, and physical abuse, and all kinds of. And they show it's Kathy Bates as Joan Blondell, Susan Sarandon as Betty Davis, and a couple other stars. Catherine Zeta-Jones as Olivia de Havilland, sitting there watching the Oscars backstage, the in memoriam segment. And they're going through like, Sammy Davis Jr. is singing, and they're going through like each star, like, oh, this person passed this year, this cinematographer. And it was like Joan Crawford and then gone. And they were like, that's it? 6 seconds for this woman who gave her life for this industry? And then, one of them turned around and said, that's all that we'll ever get. That's sad.
Is that what happened in real life, or was that in the show?
It was in the show. I don't know what the actual circumstances were at the Oscars because it was taken from interviews of things that happened after. But it is an interesting observation that no,
Gave
you
to
can give your
someone
life to
younger.
it. If you work at a company, they at least give you a watch or something at the end, and they have a party for you. If you give your life to Hollywood, you get 6 seconds in an in memoriam segment, maybe. And one person's left out every year that pisses people off. So it's like, that's where you're at.
You know, I there's a college in my area, and I don't want to say it because it's just a regular person, but I was talking with this professor, and she said we essentially give our lives to the university, and they live near the campus, and that's just what they dedicate their lives to. And I've seen inklings that this is difficult for professors. They talk about the perpetually youthful student because they never
Ah,
see them grow up, and while as they continue to age. And this one woman, the woman that said that she said we give our lives to this. The college made a bunch of changes. It got rid of the major that she was a professor in, and now she's just staff. And I saw one of her Facebook comments, and it said, "I used to be a professor, now I'm just staff." And she gave her life to it, and she knew that it had been downgraded. And it just sucks when you give your life to these things, um, and then you're treated like garbage.
it
And
really it's like we were talking about legacy. You think that you're building a legacy with an institution, with an organization, in an industry, and at the end, it's just like, okay, next. Like,
that everything passes away. Even statues that we thought would be here forever have been torn down. And
That Robert E. Lee glowing statue in like the cinder thing where they were burning it, that was haunting. That I think unleashed a new seal. Like it's over. Like we're cursed as a country now.
right, it was when the iconoclast came over, and it started with Nikki Haley. Um,
Your gal.
yeah, my gal Nikki. She's a
Your
woman.
gov your
Do you know that
governess.
she's a
Did
woman?
you know that she's a lady? I
She's a
had no
lady.
idea. See,
If
the
you
difference between Nikki Haley and Hillary Clinton is at least Hillary Clinton was qualified. At least Hillary Clinton does the work.
the mur-
Sorry.
she does the murdering herself.
Exactly. I mean, it's like a game of Clue. Like she was in the bedroom with the candlestick. She beat the shit out of Bill Clinton. Nobody wants to talk about that. I've read more Hillary Clinton biographies than just about any other person. Well, I was going to say any other sane person, but it's me. And there was one of them talked about how like she would like throw things at his head before they got into the White House and while they were in the White House, which is fascinating to me.
So she was still jealous a little bit.
I think, well, apparently she has this temper, like he has a temper, like he pushed Dick Morris to the ground, but she also has a temper and a racial side, which I think is interesting.
I remember she called one person a damn Jewish bastard.
Yep, Dick Morris.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She used a few slurs in her time, which God bless. But getting back to I was gonna say getting back to Nikki Haley, but even before that, it really is about it really is about creating a legacy. And I no, it's interesting. You mentioned a very important aspect of this because work is one aspect of people's lives. And so people are like, I work to pay the bills. Okay, great. That's important. We all do. Um, I think that when it comes to legacy, something I'm learning now is that your legacy really is the people in your life. And, you know, when you pass or when you pass on, what do the people what do the people in your life say about you? I had this, it's been a tough couple of months for me and I had an understanding that, I think a few months ago, the people in my life, if I was hit by a bus, which please get the settlement money, like, oh my gosh. But if I was hit by a bus, I think people in my life would mostly say he was funny and he posted a lot of pictures of drinks and yeah, he was kind of nice and like clothes. And I'm like, okay, that fucking sucks. That's sad. That's sad that that would be all that people would say about me in a couple of weeks after, they ship me off to the ground. But realizing that, and then that really is what started to help me undo this whole equation is I'm like, what can I do to make myself a person that, is a person of service for the other people in my life and for my community at large. You and I were talking about, going around your community, participating it, being involved in it, checking in on the people around you. And not just doing like, like one good deed or like making one phone call, but it's a consistent, it's an experience that you have with people. And I had a very dear friend pass earlier this year, and it was very sad. So many people in his life came and shared stories with me. This is Damien. So many people in his life came and shared stories with me about spending time with him and how special he was. And he really, he's very special. I saw him not long before he passed. He came to visit us. But I was so heartened by how many people had so many positive memories of him. And I was like, the other feeling that then much later came to light is I was like, I don't think that many people would say that about me. I think that I was a little bit too difficult and a little bit too mysterious and obscure and eccentric and in my own way. And so that was really what pushed me now to help as much as I can, help start this business here. I have another business running out of my house and working to create a legacy and working to really make amends to the people in my life and try to do better going forward.
Hmm. Well, I think that's a good goal to have. And if our leaders would have that same goal too, I think one of the big criticisms that people had about Donald Trump was he's only doing this for his legacy. That would have been a great motivation for other people. They try to make it about us and then they never do it about us. or they don't know how to represent us and they're just representing big companies and big business. I want some people that care about their legacy because no one wants to be known as a tyrant. No one wants to be
Right.
known for genocide. No one wants to be known for horrible things. They want to be known for good things. And if they really care about their legacy, then they're going to do a good job.
That's another thing. I feel that, now Trump is on this show trial. I mean, the show trial of all show trials in New York, where they're trying to say he inflated the value of his assets. And it's like, oh, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. But they're trying to humiliate him, and it's really embarrassing because it's like, how many CEOs stole money, embezzled, defrauded the government and people and their own employees and their shareholders and so on and so forth in the state of New York in just the past 10 to 15 years. How many Enron level scandals we do never hear about, how many property developers that had scuzzy practices and how they got their buildings together or acquired them, how many people had people bumped off. And instead you come for the one man who was like, look, I built a building, I built other buildings, I created value, I created a tax base at each of these blocks, and I made each of these blocks more productive than they were before. And I employed thousands of people, and the people who worked for me are by and large happy. And I've created a brand that now drives people to your city just to stand outside of my building and take pictures. What is wrong with that? That's okay. And he's, I mean, in the first term and hopefully the second, we'll see. There's an element where it's like, I want to do that with this country because this country, Donald Trump, by the way, is the only person who's basically openly admitted in politics that America is a brand at this point. Like, we are a brand. We're not the Constitution. We're not, our ideals. That shit's all been shipped out the window. We are a brand, and our brand is going down. And when we have poor people, when people poorly representing what our brand is to other countries and to ourselves, when we have people on the streets, when we have no idea who's coming into this country, the brand suffers. And so his idea of like, no, I want to make the brand better. I want this country to be successful. I want people to want to come to America and come the right way. I want America to be respected on the world stage because there's other countries that have nefarious intents and they're very selfish. That's a fair argument to make. And for some reason, there are so many people in politics that are so allergic to that. And they're thinking, they're the ones who always back up to like, well, democracy. And America's not a democracy. And this idea of democracy that they have is wildly out of touch with what this country is or even wants to be. They really don't understand the identity of what this country is. But he does. And I think that that's an important distinction to make.
About America being a brand, I was talking with someone. I've got a lot of immigrant friends. They come here. I know them from the DMV. I become friends with them. And sometimes I have conversations with people in America that, when America is the number one country and that we were targeted. I used to not believe that anything bad would happen in America or to America because we were number one. So I thought that meant we
Right.
were safe. But number one means you're the biggest target. And I think that we have been targeted by outside forces that want to, rob the treasury and just get what they can from it. And when I try to make this argument to people, because I see things happen that don't make sense, that is, just an outside force robbing the treasury. I have run organizations into the ground. I know what they look like. And this seems like
I have run organizations into the ground. I know what it takes.
Right. And
I'll vote for you. That's an honest political slogan. You'd win the South Carolina primary with that.
Right, because I probably would, and I would be like, "Hey, this is what happens when I'm running into the ground. Let's just do the opposite."
Hey, you know what? Me too. I run organizations into the ground. It's a pain. It's a lot of work, but it's possible.
It's a lot of work. You just have to believe the wrong things and do the wrong things, and and you know what the wrong things are because
I almost
the right
spit.
things are hard to do. It's
You
like
have
whatever's
to-
easiest.
You have to get really stressed out and you have to like mismanage things completely and give people the wrong instructions and then just have anxiety and
You have
then
to
you can
run the
anything.
numbers away.
You could run anything into the ground. You could run yourself into the ground doing that. It's fantastic. Like who knew?
People run themselves into the ground all the time. Look at all the tent cities where
Yeah.
Wherever recreational marijuana is passed into law, there's a tent city.
Ooh, new topic. This is a good
Yes.
one.
I learned this from someone that came here from Denver. And I said, "Are you going to miss the marijuana?" And she said, I can't remember the answer to that, but she voted against recreational marijuana in Denver
Mhm.
because they were not going to use the money the way they said they were going to use the money. So she looked up how the funds were going to be allocated because they were like, it's going to be for the children. And it was
Which is a weird argument to make. You're selling weed so the kids can go to school and learn about how bad weed is, and then get so stressed with school that they eventually try weed. Like this is a fucked up country. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll kind of made some points. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say that. I didn't say that, but
then but she also said that there's always a tent city whenever recreational marijuana is passed. And
Yes.
I said this to someone else who used to live in Portland, and he was like, no, Portland's got other problems. They're very defensive of that. People that like marijuana are very defensive that it's 100% good and that it's not bad and it's better than alcohol. And
Oof.
the that's like, it sounds like a propaganda. And if you look, I don't think it's the same for medical marijuana licenses or decriminalized. It's not even the same thing. It's when it's recreationally legalized, you get tent cities immediately.
There is something I think that Ann Coulter of all people, our beloved patron saint Ann Coulter, has posted about the dangers of this, especially in Colorado and in other states where now we actually have some data on crime and on worse mental health, and that is the part that really scares me. I think that occasional marijuana use is fine. I don't do it anymore, and the reason why is because at least with drinking, which I also don't do anymore, you can drink a cup of water and get off the bus. Like you're like, okay, I'm fine. I can sober up. I can eat something and I can feel a little bit better. With weed, it was like I am not in control and I'm on this ride and it's 8 hours and I'm just laying in bed and I feel everything moving and I hate how this feels. Like I hated that feeling. Some people like it, I guess. I don't know. But I think that with marijuana, the ideal, as the hippies thought, was, hey, you're just having fun and you're in the forest and you're at a concert and you take a little hit off a joint and you smoke a very, very low THC joint like it's a cigarette, and that's fun and it's a doobie, and your brain goes on a little trip, and that's everything. I do not think that the goal was every day before you go to work you smoke weed. Every night when you come home, you smoke weed. You're on an edible 24 hours a day, basically. And without it, you start to have panic attacks and you start to have hallucinations and you start to have I mean, negative self-beliefs and negative beliefs of others, and just this kind of doom spiral that it sends people through. And it's like the third rail now. Nobody wants to talk about that. Like nobody wants to talk about the negative aspects of it. And it's like, well, it's legal, it's fine. It's like, okay, we talk about the negative aspects of alcohol because those negative aspects are physical and very visible, but there are negative aspects to marijuana that we don't want to talk about because we can't see them as much, but there are. That's
Right.
really that's worrisome, and I think that we let a cat out of the bag a little bit too quickly.
I wrote about it a few years ago, but the man in Florida who was eating the other man's face that everyone
Ah,
put on bath salts, his toxicology report shows that he was only on THC.
yeah. I don't think that bad. Yeah, that bath salts thing I think was overblown. I don't think anybody was, smoking crystals or whatever on the bathtub.
Right. Well, if you're getting paranoid, if something is making you paranoid as a side effect, and a symptom of schizophrenia is paranoia, it seems like that's a bad thing to do, and it's increased. Seen news articles, which might not be true, but they're seeing a rise in schizophrenia, and
Yes, because it's de-individuation. You step out. See, I think the idea with marijuana is instead of stepping out, you step outside of yourself, but then you step back in with a new perspective or whatever. But I think with continual use or overuse, you step outside of yourself and you stay outside of yourself, and that's a problem.
I think you're right. And another thing that they thought it will end crime if it's legal, but it doesn't stop marijuana crime because the people that were doing it illegally for years and selling it, they didn't just become upright citizens and open up shops. They just go rob the dispensaries.
Exactly. And so it's like that was such a farce. And that was, it was silly. And I think that, cops loved weed because they could get people on weed that they could get for other things. But it's like, well, the other things are bad enough, and that's fine. I understand that concept. But I also think that if you intended to distribute the equivalent amount of alcohol that you did with marijuana, alcohol is still a very controlled substance. You can't just open up a beer barn out of nowhere. Like, you have to have, there's local regulations. You can't just be on the side of the street selling handles of Jack. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You'll be arrested. But with weed, it's like, okay, a bag of weed, like this big, like a big Ziploc baggie or something like that. The alcohol equivalent like that would be like cases and cases of Captain Morgan or something. And you're just, selling it out of the back of your trunk. So I feel like the way that alcohol is enforced, if they enforce marijuana under that same sort of guideline, we'd have a lot different situation here. But they kind
Actually,
of don't.
I haven't heard this before, but you're right. I knew about a woman that sold alcohol on Sunday out of her house, and everybody knew to go to her house to get it. I only heard about her after she got arrested. You can't have, I live in Florence, South Carolina, and I'm going to read y'all that you cannot have a ABC store within a certain feet of a church. You can't even have a tattoo shop in a certain number of feet from a church.
Oh yeah, you got dry county regulations, like all that stuff.
I could throw a rock and hit a church. That's how many churches are around me. And but now we've heard the rumor that the police are told don't arrest someone for a small amount of marijuana. And so now my entire city smells like pot all the time.
A lot of people are saying this, especially like Las Vegas, which despite everything, Las Vegas in the 90s got really cleaned up. And now you walk around and it fucking smells. New York, I mean, New York in 2021 when I went versus the year later, the weed was like it was like night and day how much more weed I just opened. Like it's weird.
There's one person, and I see he once every 2 months. I see him with a big can and a paper bag. He was at the halfway house that I passed by when we
Oh,
were FaceTiming
is
last
he like
week.
an old school wino? That's almost like charming now.
It is
Like,
charming. He's a charming person. That's a beautiful dog. That's what he always tells me.
oh,
But I see him. That's the only person in town I see. But there's pot everywhere, everywhere. And it's uncomfortable because I know that people are probably paranoid and they just look at you too weird. And and there isn't enough talk about the downsides. Um, like DMT, there are no downsides discussed about DMT.
and that always scares me. Whenever I hear something that's like, "Oh, it's fine," I'm like, "No, I don't trust when someone just tells you it's fine." Like that's always like my red flag.
And everybody loves it. Like Mike Tyson loves it, and everybody, and it's very, interesting because they say that everyone has the same hallucination that they're in a room and they're all connected to something, and everybody, it just seems really unusual. And I was curious about it, but I have decided that I'm too old to do psychedelics for the first time, so I'm just never going to do it. But another thing that stopped me because it is like well, if you hear about DMT, you just hear about how great it is and how loving it is.
Right.
But there was no downside anywhere. So, and I wrote about this when I wrote about the marijuana. Also, this is going to be the only downside that there is the DMT. The downside is that there is no downside, and that's scary. But there, just to be creative for a moment, they say that it comes from the spot in your brain that is only accessed when you die, and it
Oh,
really
great. So I get to pre-die or something like that, just what I've always wanted.
well, I've wondered what if that is what makes our experience when we die better? And if you
Yeah.
used it, maybe it won't be as like
And you'll just have a painful death. That'd be interesting.
right because we have hormones. I think like the thymus gland, it doesn't work after so long. Things just quit working after a while. What if you just blow that wad now for fun and need it when you're gasping?
Yeah. No, it's true. I think that there's something about the modern environment, I think, that does a real disservice to people, whether it's through the internet, through pornography, through through drugs, through alcohol, through everything like this. And I'm not saying this to be like Johnny Mormon over here, because I'm not. Like, God, I've done them all. But I do think that there is something to really burning out people's dopamine receptors and not replenishing them, because it seems like there is this thing of like the more artificial dopamine, instead of like this is why the teens aren't screwing anybody. It's exciting to touch someone's hand for the first time. It's exciting to touch someone's hands for the 500th time. Like there's something exciting about physical touch and meeting somebody. There's something exciting about climbing to the top of a mountain. There's something exciting about, going on a spin bike for an hour and then you're going on a run for a long period of time. There's exciting things about like naturally experiencing life around you. And if you're instead experiencing those on your couch in this very almost like VR way, then no wonder you're fucking depressed. No wonder you're miserable. No wonder experiences are harder and harder to tolerate, because you've anesthetized yourself to the world around you. And so I think that that's going to be something where we're going to find out in the next few years, like just how bad it's gotten, because it's gotten really bad.
I think you're right. And I know that on my days off, if I get out there and go on a walk a really long time, first thing in the morning, before I get to look at my phone too much, my experience throughout the day is a different experience. I think there was more wonder, I think there's more creativity. And often on my walk, I'm a daydreamer. I'll start walking slow because I'm thinking, and then I'll talk to myself, as I'm not one of those crazy people in my neighborhood, I don't think, but I get so absorbed that I just like say things. And these are like long walks. I'm like maybe 10,000 steps at once.
Good.
And I, you know, I just feel like I've been wrapped in a blanket. It just feels cozy and content, and you just kind of bring that to the rest of your life. It's just a really interesting experience. But if I'm looking at my phone and on a walk, the walk seems shorter. It feels like I didn't relax. Um,
Or the people who put in music and then go on a walk, or they put in a podcast and go on a walk. Like I used to do that, and I don't do that anymore because I miss everything around me. I miss the coyotes. I miss the people. I miss, saying hi and stopping. I miss getting to say good morning to people, or good morning, like you say. I miss the interactive part of being on a walk, even if you're by yourself for a little bit. Like someone's going to come along at some point. Why not say hi?
right. And there's some people, especially older people, that are disconnected. They don't understand you're being distracted.
Right.
Whereas like a young person is like, oh yeah, he's on the phone. But the older person doesn't understand it. And I think it kind of makes them feel bad.
Yeah, I see an older couple that walks on my walk every morning, because I take Rover up to the top of the hill, across through the town, and then back here. And it's every morning. Every morning I'm here, and the when I'm out of town, I feel like shit because I miss it, and I try to have some equivalent version, but whatever.
How many steps did you get on that?
I don't even calculate my steps, but I think it's a few miles. It takes me about an hour and 15-20 minutes
Do
to
you think
get.
probably like 5 miles?
Maybe, yeah. Part of it's straight uphill, and so that's good to like get the cardio going. And then it's like a gentle downhill crest, and then it winds down to street level and through the canyon. Um, and so it really is something where I see older folks, especially like there's an older uh, couple that both have walkers, and they walk together, and they're so cute. They're always up at sunrise, like they go, and they look so happy, and they look like they're going to outlive everybody, even though they're a little bit infirm, because they're aware of what's going on around them. Like they see the houses, they see construction vehicles, they see dogs going by, they see everything, they greet everybody, and I'm like, that is like the ideal. Like they're enjoying this and getting everything out of it. But the people who are just so distracted or whatever, you see them and they're just looking at the ground and on they go. That's a completely different experience.
On my walk this morning, I saw a woman holding her toddler, and they were at the sidewalk in front of the library looking over at construction that was happening. So there was like a chain link fence, and there's some kind of fabric on it to kind of hide the construction, but you can still see through it. And they had the big bulldozers and stuff. And I heard her talking to the child. I think it was a girl child. She was saying, oh, yeah, we can see behind there. They're doing construction, they're digging that up. And I was kind of surprised because it was a woman standing there. Um, but she was teaching her child because men will stand and look at that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I don't often see women do that. But she was teaching her child. And so they were really taking it in and observing it. And I just thought about like all the connections that that little girl was making in her brain, seeing this unusual thing for the first time.
Yes, I see people with their kids and they have earbuds on and the kids in their little like rucksack or something backpack. And I hate that. I'm like, any time you spend with your child is a time to bond with your child and your for child to learn something. Kids are like sponges. That's the whole point. And the idea that people decide to be so distracted when their kids are around, it's like, no wonder the kid just wants to look at an iPad. They're looking at you. You're not giving them anything. Then they're just going to look at an iPad. Like that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, so their dopamine can be fixed. And our conversations with people, because people are all we actually have.
Yeah.
And even when we're looking at our phone, we're still experiencing people, but just in a virtual reality kind of way. The I saw a video of a woman talking to her pug, and it was a pug. They have little brains, and she said, "Just eat a corn." I think she had cheese or something, and she said, "Just eat a little bit of it, just like this, just the corner." And she ate a little bit of the cheese, just the corner. She said, "Be gentle, just the corner." And then he ate just a little bit gently. He just gently ate the cheese, and I thought she's communicating with him.
Yes.
um, and it's changing how much more so with the child. I think I saw that before I saw the child, so I was thinking about even if you think they don't understand, they're it's making connections.
I'm learning now that my dog knows when my dog is a rescue. He's a 5-year-old husky. And yeah, Rover is very perceptive. And so he's very anxious and he can smell when you're anxious and he can tell and then he just goes berserk. But if you're calm and he looks to you, and if you're calm and you walk him and you're very firm and everything, then he will start to feel more reassured. And so I'm learning that basically it's like modeling the right behavior for your dog so that, I mean, because he's very reactive to other dogs. And so that's been something for me that's been like kind of hard, is that you'll have other dogs on the trail and he'll see them and he'll start freaking out. And it's like, oh, okay, calm down, calm down. He's doing a lot better now because it's like, if I don't panic seeing other dogs, I'm just like, okay, let's sit. And now he has his little routine, then he's good.
Well, we're coming up on the end of this video, and the Paul Leslie Show, which is my sister podcast in Charleston, it was a radio show. Um, Now it's a podcast, and he interviewed RFK Jr. recently.
Oh, wonderful.
He's trying to get Donald Trump on for the
I hope
thousand
he does it.
for the thousandth episode. I can't thousandth episode. I can't say that.
Thousandth.
Okay, I'm not. That was good for that episode, and so he's trying to do that. I hope he does too. But Paul Leslie recommends turning over the end of the show or the episode or the podcast to the guest so that he
Mm.
can say whatever is on his heart and mind, knowing that anyone could hear it anywhere and at any time in the future. So, with that being
Wow.
said, the show is yours, Wyatt.
Well, um, if I could say one thing about my heart and mind, is that um, going through a very difficult past couple months or so has taught me the importance of the people in your life that you love. And some people may hear this and they may just sort of, skip through this part, or, it might just fall on deaf ears. But whatever you do and wherever you're at with the people that you love in your life, remind them that you love them. And don't just say it verbally, show them. Find one thing that you can do this week to show them that you really do love and care about them. And it might mean making a change within yourself. And I invite you and I recommend to do so.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Thank you, Robert. Always a pleasure.